Welcome to Group Dates and Hot Takes, a Bachelor Nation podcast. I'm Sampy, a Bachelor newbie.
And I'm Christy, a veteran. Join us as we take on season 25 of The Bachelor together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women Tell All episode. This week we have a super special guest, Abby Goulet, who has watched this episode and is also going to be recapping with us. Welcome, Abby.
Yay! I'm so excited.
I'm glad you're excited. Well, Christy, we're back another week. Where should we start?
Well, I had a few things from social media.
Oh boy.
Yeah. One quick thing was that a while back, Chris Harrison filmed an episode of Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, and they just had this little disclaimer at the bottom to say this is previously recorded. So basically, don't hate us. The next two things are more serious. So Rachel Lindsay has deactivated her Instagram account because there's just a whole bunch of racist trolls on the internet who were harassing her and sending her DMs, which is really unfortunate.
Wow.
And then the third thing is, Abby, I don't know if you remember Taylor Nolan from Nick's season. She was the one who was like sparring with Corinne. There was like this whole big emotional intelligence debate.
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, Taylor, people found tweets of hers from like 2010 through like 2014. I don't know if you saw this scandal.
I was just reading about this before earlier today.
I'm not going to read any of the tweets on here because they are truly horrific. It's like some of the worst I've ever seen. But I did write down the list of like people groups that she basically insulted. So Jews, Asians, African children, Black people, Mexicans, rape victims, redheads, Indians, people who are disabled, gay, struggling with infertility, people who have dental issues, mental illness, and just a whole lot of tweets promoting violence.
Holy.
I think you left like fat people off the list. She had a lot of tweets about fat people.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I didn't list that one, but yeah, that one too. It was so many.
Do people just? I'm not going at this from a particularly illuminated perspective, but do people just post on social media so much that they just wouldn't think to scrub it because they look through and there's just so many tweets to go through?
I don't know. I think somebody said she has like 11,000 tweets. So
okay, so maybe.
Still though, like, come on, if there's that many, like, you should be deleting them at least. Like, the fact that you
or
even
not
posted
saying
them
them in the first place. That's
exactly.
a good place to start as well.
I mean, people asked her why she didn't delete them, and she said, "Oh, it's a part of my journey that led me to who I am today." Which I just had to laugh at.
Abby looking real skeptical right now, I gotta say.
That's just like a cop-out answer. Like, that's what that is. It's just like, oh, yeah, like, I was too lazy. It goes in.
Yeah,
this was a part of my journey.
I forgot to delete that section from my Twitter.
I didn't go that far.
Yeah, I thought all my insulting tweets about every single category of people were from 2015, so I just didn't go back far enough. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, it was quite the firestorm yesterday as all of that got discovered. And then the last thing is we have a host for After the Final Rose.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Someone named Emmanuel Ocho.
And
is how you pronounce it.
Who is he?
He's a former football player, but I think he's mainly known now for hosting some show on ESPN, I think, and then he has this YouTube series and a book with the name Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
This is an interesting time to bring this up then, because this is tying things together in my mind. But, again, this may be a bad hot take, but I do definitely still think that I have more issue with how people responded to the whole Rachel Kirkconnell situation versus her actual behavior, like, from the past, like, taking it out and making it really, really bad, like Chris Harrison's comments, everybody on the internet. But the one thing that I did find funny was I saw an internet post that Rachel had posted on Instagram, this photo of her, like, at lunch or something, or, like, brunch. She was having some sort of coffee, and it was basically like a photo op with that book.
Yes.
Oh.
which I did find pretty funny, because yeah, she's gonna have to kind of own up to some stupidity in her past. But that was a pretty funny. Just, is this really necessary? Yeah, okay, yeah, I totally believe you now that you're, like, really working on yourselves. Like, oh, let me just put this book right here, the perfect angle, so you guys can zoom in and see that it's Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Like, see, I'm learning, like, I'm growing. Yeah, that's
Yeah. This is the perfect influencer shot.
That is really, like, not real life at all. Just like, oh man, I gotta show these people. But I'm changing.
Yeah, I'm changing, guys. I really see.
This is such a process for me. It's going through my journey.
Yep, that's the internet for you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm glad that they didn't cancel after the final rose. That would have been devastating, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah. What usually happens in an after the final rose? Do they just sort of recap, oh, here are my feelings, this is why I chose the person I chose, or?
That's like the end. Like, before that, they have him sit down with the final two that he dumped.
Oh, wow.
Which is very awkward.
But lately, after the final rose is like the epilogue. Like, there's the past couple seasons, it's been like, oh man, like, actually, I dumped her, and now I like this other girl, or like,
Yeah.
I dumped them both. It's over. Like, it's all of this extra drama the last couple times. But yeah, ideally, it's just a nice ending.
But maybe more frequently or more likely to be sort of a women tell all for the women who didn't get to tell all before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what you pay me for. I'm a newbie. I see things from a different perspective. Yep. Oh, man. So many developments. And I feel like I should warn people here. Just don't tweet. Why are you people tweeting? Just don't.
PSA for Twitter.
Keep your stupidity and your terrible opinions and your hatred of other people in your brain. Why? Why would you put that on the internet? Just,
I mean, Zippy really lives this message too. He
I
only
do.
has like
Yeah.
15 tweets, not even.
No, that is a vast multiplication of
it
the tweets
5?
that I have. I mean, maybe. Like, I'm on track to hit 50 tweets by the time I'm like 92 or so. So, you know, I'm getting out there. I'm socializing. But yeah, there's no point. Keep your bad takes to yourself. Or put them on a podcast, I guess. I don't know.
It's not as quotable. They have to look through it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the women tell all, huh?
Oh yes.
Do either of you have an initial opinion, not necessarily on this season, but I know both of you have watched The Bachelor Bachelor, Bachelorette, any Bachelor adjacent shows for many, many years at this point. I think, Abby, you've even been watching The Bachelor longer than Christy has at this point.
I feel like Christy's got a one-up because I don't watch the Paradise ones, so I don't know all the drama. But yeah, I have actually watched the series. I don't even know. I want to say it was like 11 years or something. It's 11 or 12 years. It kind of blows my
Wow.
mind, but yeah.
That is a
I
lot
missed
more
like
than me.
one or two in there towards the newer end that I haven't seen, but for the most part, I've seen them all.
Interesting. Well, do you have any just general women tell all hot takes for us before we dive in?
Like not from tonight, but just like other ones.
Not specific to any specific season, but just impressions
Oh.
of the event itself. Things that maybe we won't get to talking about the actual details of tonight.
Well, okay, so I don't know. The women tell all like what you saw tonight. It is mostly like they all just sit in a circle. There's always a fight. There's some that like in the past it's actually like there's been villains that have been like really iconic and they get like in the hot seat and they're like grilled to death or whatever. And there's always like one girl that talks too much and I never remember who she is because she doesn't have any screen time, and then she gets on the women tell all and she blurts all her opinions. I'm like, who are you? Like, were you voted out like week one? Like, I don't know who you are. You don't even know who these people are. Like, what? I don't care about your. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get too mean, but that's one thing that I always notice. The dresses can be interesting, if it's the Bachelorette. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's actually the same amount of drama between a men tell all and a women tell all. That's another thing that's kind of interesting to me. It's like there's usually still the same stupid fights. It's just like the men are a little more angry, the women are like a little more resentful. Like it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, there was definitely some shade being thrown tonight, if not in words, in looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the camera tries to catch those.
I thought this one was a bit more tame than previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was one where one girl straight up shoved a pacifier in somebody else's mouth. Like,
what?
I don't remember that one. Oh my gosh!
What incarnation?
Yeah, it was not the best moment.
Huh. Yeah, there did seem to be a lot of, and this is, again, just my impression in general of tonight, but a lot of tiptoeing around things, perhaps. Whether it was people trying to take responsibility in a roundabout way, trying to maybe kill the sort of question before they were focused on too much, potentially, or even how, like, their impressions of Matt as well. It did seem a little bit muted, and maybe more than I was expecting. I was definitely expecting some violence at some point going into it.
We'll get into my hot takes about the women's impressions of Matt.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Well, should we jump right in here?
Let's do it.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Christy. Take us away.
Well, Chris Harrison asked the women like what their first impressions of Matt were. I only wrote down a couple, but Kayla said it was exhilarating to meet Matt, and Chelsea said her dress made her feel confident.
Yeah, was it?
Was it a dress? That's the question.
That's the dress that I like kind of craft all over at the beginning of the season.
I wrote down dress or lack thereof. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, there were some definite asking for wardrobe malfunctions there. Across the season, of course, but maybe even more especially at the first episode. I believe it was Kaylee, wasn't it, who was talking about how she was blacking out for half of it. She just apparently it was so traumatizing that her brain could not take it, and she shut down. Yeah.
I imagine being underneath the lights and cameras would be very nerve-wracking.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
And hot as well, as somebody who has been on stage, not on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, of course. That sort of thing tends to be quite hot when you're in a production, so I'm sure that affects things as well. And we even had Sarah, I believe, at one point, who just couldn't take it anymore and
Yeah.
collapsed during the season.
Yeah.
So that was quite great. One thing that I was just getting a huge kick out of as we sort of took the look back at the season, just some of the more classic turns of phrase that listeners will be familiar with. Just things like the trash took itself out.
Oh,
Who are
yeah.
these
Shoot.
random ass hoes? The whole varsity versus junior varsity thing. And then, of course, MJ's weak bitch energy. Just all of the classics there in that montage.
I know. Did they think we forgot? Like, some of this was
That's what
just
I
like
was- yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Apparently, Bachelor Nation has a very short memory.
Let's take a look back. It's like, no, I already watched it.
Yes, you were quite irritated at that.
I hate it every single time the women tell all or men tell all. Let's look back. It's like you filled like 30 minutes of airtime with stuff I've already seen.
Okay, interesting.
I just want the interviews.
Do you feel similarly, Christy?
Yes. Like, think of all the footage they have that we haven't seen. Like, you could fill the women tell all with all the like behind the scenes stuff, maybe more bloopers, or even like, as they show later, those dates that we never saw before. There's too much unaired footage.
Okay, so I should note, Christy is very angry that they did not show new footage.
That would have been awesome. Or even like 15 minutes of like bloopers. If you could just find the best bloopers for 15 minutes, that would be the best.
Yeah, I mean, they are basically filming 24/7 for like 7 weeks, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of B footage.
There's so much. We probably see like 2% of it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I do understand the annoyance then at that. For me, like Kaylee, I sometimes black out during episodes. And so some of the time I was like, oh yeah, this is good. Like, refresher, remind me what actually happened. Because sometimes it's just too traumatic for me. I just can't handle it. I shut down. I fall out of my chair onto the floor. It's happened before.
Wow, you haven't told us until now?
I feel like I mentioned it on the episode it happened, but yes, I was on the floor at one point.
I think it was the erotica date.
Oh, maybe that would make sense. Yes, that was highly incredible.
My brain censored that.
Highly uncomfortable for sure. Of course, they had to just rehash this MJ and Jasenia thing, right?
Yes, which is just so tired at this point.
Yeah.
I was a bit disappointed, perhaps even say underwhelmed by this season. And now I did not have any expectations, really, going into this, besides I might not like watching it most of the time. But besides that, my only expectation really was that I would actually get to see what some of these people were like. And instead, right, we had an obscene amount of Victoria footage. We had an obscene amount of just like MJ and Jasenia going back and forth. We had just a ton of Sarah versus everybody, Katie versus various people. And I just was not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, it was hard because the conflicts there wasn't a lot of meat to them. It was just like, especially the MJ Jasenia thing. It was just like, I hate you. No, you suck. The end. Like, there was like nothing. Like, no substance there whatsoever. And like, even MJ, like, you remember what she said throughout the episode was like, yeah, you're attacking my personality, or like, you're putting my character in question. And it's just like, so like, she didn't do anything. She just said something to you. Like, it's nothing. So like, to harp on it for like 3 episodes, it's just like, oh, okay, we get it. They're just mad and they both went home. He didn't like either of them, so it's fine. It's not like he was really invested in one of them, because that's what's happened in the past, is like, the lead is invested in one of the like people that's fighting. Like, sometimes that happens, and then it's a lot more interesting. So it's like, oh man, like, is he actually gonna send her home because he likes her? But yeah, no, this one was just like, a bunch of fights that happened, and he didn't really like any of them, and they all went home.
Yeah, and it was all just very childish and no real point to most of it at all.
No, but MJ is just doubling down on it. She's like, "Oh, I have a strong personality, so like if it comes off wrong, like deal with it."
Even though, she just tries to accept responsibility without accepting responsibility. I did. The only section that I was really I was just cracking up about was Victoria just trying to
She was hilarious.
Yeah.
Trying to insert herself as always, just like, do you think you're super sensitive? Like that was actually to Ryan, but it was just, oh man.
Yeah. She talked about how like the internet made fun of her bra and everything.
Rightfully
She's like,
so.
I laugh it off. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, but there is, and we've talked about this, I think, on the show before, but just the difference in doing stuff to somebody's face versus online. And obviously, there's some obscenely terrible things that happen online, but people tend to be more bold online. But also, like, it does hit different. Like, if someone were to walk up directly to you and say, "Oh, you're like the most stupid person I've ever met," like, that's probably gonna feel different than just some person on the internet being like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe like you're not stylish."
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, that said, I'm sure she did get some pretty terrible abuse online, which of course we do not condone.
No.
Cyberbullying or anything like that, but it is kind of funny that she would compare her post show experience online to just the absolute heck she was raising with everybody on the show, just trying her best to destroy everybody in her path. I mean, she would fixate on a target, get them destroyed, then move on to the next target. So that was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was funny because she actually, like, the way when she brought that up, like, she probably did get some serious hate. Like,
oh yeah,
if she had been anyone else, she could have, like, trounced it, but she was just like, "Are you a super sensitive person?" It's just like, oh no.
yeah. She also said, "Why are you holding on to emotional anger?" Like,
Yeah, because there is anger that isn't emotional. Just don't,
because you called her a hoe directly to her face. Maybe that's why. Yeah. And then the whole life is a learning experience. That was another.
Oh, Chrissy.
That was another.
You also
Victoria.
said Victoria's outfit was interesting too. And
Yes, tell us about that, Christy.
yeah, I did not like this. It was like a jean jacket kind of thing, like a matching top and bottom, but she only had a bra on underneath and it was like unzipped.
Yep.
Just odd, especially after the whole internet laughed at her bra situation before. I don't understand why this was the outfit she decided to go with.
Mm-hmm.
Christy does not like Bachelor nudity.
It's just,
I don't think many people do.
I think you would be surprised at the people watching this show, Abby. They're not all as tame as we are.
I don't want to go down that road.
Oh, we're going to go down that road later, America.
No.
I'm sorry. But that is what people pay us to do. Uncover all stones. Leave no rocks unturned.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, Christy. Her outfit was... I think at one point I was just like, I think it's just a jacket. I don't think there's anything underneath.
Yeah, I thought for a moment that she was naked under it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because they kept showing her like from a limited angle too.
Yeah.
Like their close-up. I was like,
It's just
this is
an
very
awkward,
suspicious.
awkward outfit.
Well, that's what we know and love Victoria for. So that's great.
Yeah, the next thing we had was a lot of the women going after Katie.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
apparently going to Matt and saying how toxic things are wasn't a popular thing. I still side with Katie on this.
I'm not surprised.
If it was anyone else, I would be like, oh man, she's just starting drama. But every time she approached Matt, it was always in like a very constructive way. Like, it never seemed like, I don't know, it was always because she was concerned for like other people. It wasn't just like to throw someone under the bus. I don't know. I thought it was kind of, and it was dumb that they brought it all up now. Like they sort of reamed her out during the show, but it wasn't until like at this point they were like, "Oh man, Katie, why did you do this?" They're just like, "Why didn't you say this like in the show, like when it was happening versus like way later?"
I feel like part of that is because they watched the show back and saw how bad they looked.
Yeah,
So they were
yeah,
like,
they
let
really
me
wanted
go
to.
after her.
Yeah, I think they definitely did want to. Like I said earlier, trying to soften things, trying to do damage control, trying to put the spotlight on somebody else. Even yet again with all of those different apologies, like very much like, okay, yes, I'm penitent. Move on to somebody else, please, dear God, please. Attack somebody else now. But even I was a little surprised that Chelsea kind of went after there.
Oh yeah,
as
I was
well.
surprised about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least from the cut of things that we saw, the house was toxic before Katie went to Matt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was when they were spreading the rumors. There were several girls talking about that. So to me, Katie was justified in saying something.
Yeah, it was interesting that some of the others who were sort of at more of the end of that didn't say more. I don't know if they just didn't want to get involved or what, but that was kind of interesting. Again, it was Katie just trying her darndest to do the right thing.
Yep.
So sad.
I always do find the drama at Women Tell All sometimes though, like the heated comments are always between the people who are voted, like, sorry, I was gonna say voted out. They were like eliminated.
Abby's in survivor brain again.
Mid-season, like it's never at least I can't think of many times where it's ever been like the person who got third or like fourth or even or something like that. It's always like the middle group that seems to get in cat fights. I don't know. This is interesting.
I don't know if that's just a screen time thing or what, but
Nah,
I think sometimes they might edit out the fights the top people get into.
Oh,
So you're more likely to root for them.
wow, that's a hot take, everyone.
that is a really good take. I didn't think about that.
Huh. See, this is why we keep Christy around.
Wow.
Look, we have hot takes in the title. We have to provide hot takes to the people. It is part of the bargain that we have struck.
Otherwise, the show's just Sam being confused.
Otherwise, it's just me confused. And that's not much of a podcast. Mm-hmm. So, explain to me the mechanics, maybe even the history of the hot seat. Because we've ended up with a handful of people who got some more, let us say, individual attention from the devil himself.
It's kind of usually reserved for people who had major roles on this season, and also usually the next Bachelorette will sometimes come from one of those hot seats.
Oh,
Or
interesting.
Sometimes it's an audition to get on Bachelor in Paradise. So there's usually some sort of like reason for it.
Interesting. How would it function as an audition though? Just because they're having a chance for Chris to ask them questions more directly?
Yeah, and it's like more airtime to talk about how like, oh, I was so hurt, but I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready to find love again. My heart is open.
So just generic BS nonsense.
Yeah, a lot of what we heard tonight.
I see. Okay.
Oh yeah, they all end at the exact same. I'm ready to get my heart. I'm ready to open my heart again.
I'm ready
The
for you to
process.
pay me to be a lead in a future season. Because that is the case, isn't it? That they pay the primary lead, but not the contestants.
Yes, on Bachelor in Paradise, they get paid.
Oh.
But I was hearing too that with the Bachelor, I don't know if this is the case for the Bachelorette as well, but I was hearing that they might even pay the actual lead from the Bachelorette.
Yes, yeah, the lead, like Matt James, got paid to do this.
Okay, so that what I was hearing was correct then. Yeah, so I guess my joke stands then.
Yes.
Excellent. I love it when I make a joke with no knowledge and it ends up being accurate. Incredible.
These hot seats were like actually, I don't think there was any one where I was like really either annoyed or, other than the endings, obviously it was just like generic stuff, but they were all pretty serious. Like nobody threw shade at them, like, because we had what was the first one?
Brittany.
Yeah, like that was an apology. I don't know. Did you guys believe Anna's apology?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little surprised she waited until the Women Tell All to apologize. That seemed a little bit calculated to me, but the actual apology seemed good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. It seemed probably like the most genuine of the apologies on the show. Just because it didn't seem as excusey as a lot of the others. I mean, she did talk about a little bit how, she was insecure and lashed out or whatever, but as far as the actual apology, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't so much, I just, I was just at the mercy of my emotions and it was a really stressful place and blah, blah. Like, it actually did seem fairly sincere.
Yeah, they tried to throw shade at her. Like, I think I saw the person who I was talking about that didn't get enough airtime was Mary, who don't even know if you could picture her, but she just interjected whenever she got the chance. But she tried to throw shade a couple times, and I mean, there wasn't anything to grab onto. She was just like, yeah, it was completely my fault. I did everything wrong. And they were like, you did everything wrong.
Yep,
oh,
yep,
yeah,
I did. Yeah, you got me. Yeah.
I felt really bad for Brittany, though.
Yeah.
Like, normally when you go on the show, like, you think, oh, the worst that could happen is I get a bad edit. But to get, like she was saying, when you Google her name, escort comes up. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah, that's awful.
But, as they said, we should say, all occupations are equally valid. We don't want to poo-poo sex workers, as they
no.
as they said
I'm
on the
just
show.
saying.
It was and I totally agree with you. It was kind of unfortunate, and on a lot of levels, I hold Chris Harrison and The Bachelor responsible for what happened.
Oh yeah.
Because they did really create the situation for this to happen. And I don't know, Christy, if you have any more information or if we really were able to determine, like, they had all, I guess it would have been 37 women, right? Because he started with 32, but then they held 5 back who were there from the beginning of quarantine with the other, I mean, they weren't with, but quarantining from the same time as the other 32. They kept them locked away for weeks, as far as we know.
It wasn't weeks. It was probably like 10 days or so.
Okay, so it wasn't super long, but still sucky and frustrating.
Yeah.
But the fact that they held those people back, and then were like, you know what we should do? We should just throw them into a pit of incredibly invested women who are trying to get every single chance that they can get to spend any fragment of a moment with this man, and this is gonna go great. And so I'm not
totally calculated.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. I don't like that, because that really did. I mean, they honestly created an environment, more specifically in that case, for there to be a lot of bullying and just a lot of really terrible things, because honestly, what else was going to happen?
Well, they also made the decision to air that stuff in the first place. Like, they could have just cut that out and they didn't have to use it as like the tease for the following episode. Like, oh, this girl has this past. Like, they did this.
Yeah, and so I'm sure like all of that drama existed, right? But I think all of us are irritated that they just brought it to the absolute top of the season and just would not let it go and would not let us be invested in anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that, Abby?
Yeah, no. She should have been mad at the producers, but I kind of wonder if they make it so she can't be, like, they can't really, like, say anything bad about how it's edited or something. Like,
well, I'm
there's
sure
probably
it's
something
in the contract.
Yeah.
You may not speak ill of us even if we ruin your life.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate for her. Like, hopefully it eventually blows over, but it's one of those things that's just like, they're going to be skeptical for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that sort of thing does definitely have more of an impact in the greater scheme of things and in life, to have that sort of, as we all know, once on the internet, always on the internet. So that's unfortunate. But the one thing I did find funny in all of this was Victoria, again, just trying to stir the pot, and just like asking about Anna's motives for starting the escort rumor. Which, look, we all had this question. I had extensive questions about this during the episode about that whole fiasco, wondering what her motives were. Who did she even have anybody telling her stuff, or is she just making up garbage? But this is obviously typical Victoria behavior for sure.
Oh yeah, it's like her, like, Anna starts one thing, Victoria has like done everything else.
Yeah, Victoria's like literally been starting crap every single opportunity. She's like, oh, well, maybe your heart just wasn't very pure.
I think she was the one who actually, like, I feel like there was a scene with her and Anna afterwards where Anna was like, oh yeah, she's an escort, and Victoria was like laughing and being like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Like,
yeah.
What the heck? Like, such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Abby, should we talk about the moments where your face was just full of absolute disgust?
Like, bring the first one up. I can't remember.
Well, I was just going to talk about the never seen before footage with the creatures. Fill me in on how you felt about this.
The creatures?
Remember the little cockroaches?
Oh, yeah.
Flesh-eating worms?
Sometimes I think they just run out of ideas on this show. So they're like, let's make them stick their hand in a bunch of bugs. That'll be fun. And
so actually set this up, because I'm not super familiar with this concept of just.
I don't think it's ever happened before, has it?
Yeah, I've never seen this before. It was like, it was so quick. We didn't really see much of it, but like they had to fish a ring out of a box with their hands.
A flesh-eating worms.
But
yeah,
why?
But they couldn't see. It's just an activity, I guess. for the day portion. It doesn't have a point to it at all.
Imagine that you just want to hang out with somebody, and they're like, "Hey, I have something for us to do. Here, just stick your arm in this box and feel around for a ring." No, those aren't cockroaches.
Yeah,
They're fire crickets.
This would have been another quit the show moment for me. I do not deal with these kind of creatures.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting this season because normally, Sampy, they travel everywhere. Like there's lots of like, oh, look at the scenery. Like they're in Paris going down like a main area or like Italy or something. But because they stay in the same spot, I feel like we're almost getting like the bottom of the barrel dates. Like eventually they're just getting like
This is all the rejects from all the seasons that they never got to because it wasn't cool enough.
Yeah, it's like, well, we can't go to Italy, so bugs.
Would you have quit the show at this moment as well, Abby?
I would have quit it. I would have quit it probably later. And I don't know if we want to get into this when they showed the drinking of. I can't remember where in the sequence the drinking of the eggs.
Oh yeah, that was shortly after.
Oh,
it was included in the. Yeah, there were a couple moments here where you guys were looking absolutely repulsed, and I was like, that doesn't seem that bad. I would do that.
No, I could not. The raw egg thing was just revolting.
It was the way they swallowed the yolk, and they showed everybody doing it. It was like, ew! I don't want to do. Why are you gonna? My husband's not gonna make me do this. Like, why are you making me do this?
I mean, unless your husband is a past or present Bachelor lead, in which case he's probably sadistic and probably would make you swallow raw eggs.
No.
Put your arms in boxes with cockroaches.
They also had the pancake eating competition.
Yeah, so that was a throwback to the whole like fall in love fall festival or whatever, where poor Maggie was just floating around the lake in her pumpkin for hours.
That was so great.
I felt very bad for her in those moments. Yes, of course, Victoria.
Cheating. The way they set that up was so funny. You just see this like half-eaten pancake on the ground.
Yeah, just sitting there on the ground. Well, and then too, they were calling her out on it, and she's like, "There are no rules."
I mean, it was a valid point. I actually thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, and I mean, she did the same exact thing with the beer, right? So they had to eat pancakes, and then they had to like drink a bunch of beer, and so she was like pouring the beer out too.
Like, did she forget that this is being filmed?
I think she just doesn't care. She's the type of person who would light anything on fire that she comes in contact with just to like see it burn.
Oh yeah, I thought it was funny. I mean, she just took it literally. Like, there's no rules. So the beer one was more subtle too, because all you saw was like a puddle. Someone was like, Victoria, you have to drink that. Like, you're dumping it on the ground.
There are no rules. Yeah, it's a bit easier to hide a puddle of liquid versus just like a giant pancake the size of a dinner plate.
Pancake.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Any other stuff from the unseen footage that is worth commenting on?
Hide and seek.
Oh yeah.
Poor kid.
That was so mean.
Just wandering in the woods.
Yeah, so answer this question. Did they specifically tell... Because when I was watching it at first, I thought they were like, okay, whoever finds Matt first gets to like go away and spend time with him. But they ended up doing right was they all ended up in the hot tub together. Which was that the day portion that we knew that they cut?
Yes, that was the one from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was because
maybe.
that was very recent. Because that was like the top like 6. Well,
Yeah, that was when Abigail went home. It was from that
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
week.
yeah, very, very, very soon. So I thought that they were gonna get some alone time, but no, it's just this group hot tub sesh. Did they know that ahead of time? Like,
I don't know. Like
how much did they tell these people?
they didn't show that part. I don't know what. It's just awkward too because like, as for everyone except the first girl who found him, because then you're just
Yeah.
walking up to this hot tub. The two of them, they're already there, and the next person comes.
Yep.
The
Except
second place one
Kit.
is the most awkward. Because when there's
Yeah.
two of them, when there's 2 girls and the guy, it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah.
I guess this is a thing versus yeah.
Second
Yeah.
one's like, shoot. Third wheel, maybe.
Oh, poor Kit. Just apparently not good at forests. Just wandering around.
I mean, I felt bad for her for a second, and then I was like, you didn't see a giant hot tub in the forest, like, anywhere? Like, he wasn't hiding behind a tree. Like, there's a huge hot tub. Like, you didn't hear it?
Look, it was in like
Oh, no.
a secluded thicket, Abby. Don't be so mean to poor Kit.
I don't know. It was just funny. Like, maybe they might have led her astray. That's what's sad, is, like, maybe the producers were like, go that way.
Yeah, they
like,
probably
"Ah,"
were.
like,
yeah, oh man, that's
yeah.
terrible.
so that would make me feel bad. But if she legit couldn't find the hot tub, I'd be like,
Well, she is
I don't
quite
know.
young and also
That's
used
true.
to having life handed to her on a silver platter, so it's entirely possible that 1, she's terrible at finding things, 2, that the producers were just like, hey Kit, he's like over this way for sure, like you'll get
Yeah,
there.
that would make me feel bad. Like, I would not make fun in that situation if they just sent her out in the middle of the woods. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. So here's another question for you two veterans of Bachelor Nation. So after all of, we've seen a lot of back and forth. We have had one hot seat date. We've had a lot of just general mayhem, chaos between everybody. But now we sort of, at least from my perspective, got a fair bit more focused. Like, we just ended up having a bunch of hot seat interviews. Matt ended up coming out and talking with them. Is that sort of typical where you sort of, everyone's released into chaos and then they're like, okay, no, now we actually have to like find the next bachelorette or whatever?
Yeah, I would say so. I think we had more hot seats than normal this time.
Yeah, I
I feel
agree.
like usually there's like 3.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
ended up with, was it 6 or 5 hot seats?
It looks like 5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot of hot seats.
yeah. They don't. I don't know, Chris. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not all. I don't know. Like, they're serious, but there's usually some kind of more drama than just like, you broke up. Like, because most of them were like Katie's breakup with Matt or Serena's breakup with Matt. Like, that one maybe was a little bit anomaly, but like, usually there's someone who caused a ton of drama that gets put on the hot seat, which I guess Brittany maybe was the only one where there was like drama around that, but it was all
Yeah.
like more serious than I feel like past
Yeah.
one has been.
Victoria should have had a hot seat
Yeah.
just for the train wreck.
Oh, yeah.
Christy is all about train wrecks, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, what
That
else
would've
am
been
I
great.
watching?
I wonder if they thought like it would derail too much. Like, it's just, we can't have her up here. Like,
They would never get her to shut up. They would have to
Yeah.
like call security.
literally.
Oh no. Don't go there yet, Abby. That's a spoiler.
It's a hint.
Oh, a hint. Okay, that's what we're calling
Yeah.
spoilers now? Interesting. Yeah, well, what did you think about Katie's hot seat? Anything notable?
It felt like a bachelorette audition to me. Just
Oh,
with like the
yeah.
language she used.
Well, this may blow people's minds, but I have heard rumors that she might be the next bachelorette. Though, of course, who knows now that the Bachelor is trying to rectify their image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that she might not get it now because of that.
Oh, well.
So, who knows?
I could see it being Katie, though. Like, 100%. She's probably the front runner at this point.
Yeah, I mean, being white isn't great, but I don't know, I feel like she kind of got bad rap a little bit with how angry so many other people were. It's like, well, maybe you should not be terrible people.
Yeah.
Because I really did feel like maybe I was just deluded by the great editing, but it really did seem like she was coming from a good place in what she did throughout the season. Even if, right, like, I mean, it did obviously result in a lot of drama, but that all of that stuff was there boiling under the surface anyway. It wasn't like she caused it. She just was like, hey, you should, like, take this into consideration. So I don't really feel like she deserves a lot of the heat that she got from other people.
Especially not at the Women Tell All. Like, come on.
Right, and I
don't know.
I suspect, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seemed like perhaps people were irritated because when she, or sort of as a result of her reporting it to Matt, a lot of people ended up getting a lot more screen time for very negative reasons.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And because most of them weren't trying to be villains, it was very hurtful to them, probably especially watching back. I imagine that was a pretty big ego blow to kind of see all of that. So I would say that was probably a big reason why she was catching so much flack.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I'm glad you
I don't
agree.
know if I have any other takes on Katie's hot seat. Like, it was, I don't know, it was what it was. It was sad when she kind of was caught off guard at the end, getting broken up. I was trying to, like, see it coming. Like, I actually thought the footage they showed made it seem like he liked her more than I thought he did. But, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of crying this episode. Was that more crying, less crying than a normal Women Tell All?
I don't know, actually. It seemed...
You're supposed to have these statistics for me, Christy. You know everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really track tears, but...
I track real tears. So when people, like...
snap.
like, when people go, like, they touch their eyes, but there's, like, no... Not to be, like, super mean or anything, but, like, there's these people that act super emotional, and, like, there's no tears. Like, they're just... Oh my gosh, this hurts so bad. And, like, they don't actually cry. This time they cried. And I was like, okay, this is actually emotional. But if you notice, like, in past seasons, sometimes the girls are, like, just touching their eyes. And, like, you think that they're emotional, but it's, like, it's just, it doesn't feel right. Like, there's just, I don't know what it is. But I just get the sense that there's something going on. Or, like, they're not as emotional. They're trying to, like, play it up for the camera. I don't know.
Definitely true, in my opinion.
Some people just have really dry eyes and can't produce tears, Abby. Jeez.
I don't know, Sampy. You're giving them too much credit.
Perhaps. No, I can't allow you to be the meanest person on this podcast. Usurp my role as the Chris Harrison of meanness.
Yep.
Well, so what about Abigail then? Did you feel more things inside yourself then?
Yes.
Well,
because we share a name.
Explain yourself, Abigail.
Yes. I just felt bad for her. Like, I felt like Matt led her on. Like, she was the one where I was like, man, Matt was kind of a jerk. Like, he didn't give her any one-on-one. Like, he gave her the first impression rose and then, like, did nothing for her, like, the whole time. Like, but you saw these shots of him, like, actually really liking her. And then it was, like, nothing. Like, it felt like she just got, like, shafted, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, there should have been more there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm refraining from making terrible jokes there. But continue, Christy. I apologize.
I was, just from what Abby was saying, like, I guess it's kind of later when he came out, but she didn't say anything to him about the whole, yeah, I really liked you at the beginning, but then I was so comfortable that I then just like forgot about you. Like, she
Yeah.
never brought that up at all.
Yeah, I will say this is a verbatim quote from the Abigail on this podcast during this segment. Come on, grill him. He was a jerk to you.
Because he was. But I actually said that later. I said that when he came out.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. My notes were a little disorganized here. But yes, I totally agree with both of you. I was incredibly disappointed in Matt. It's like, what is going on in your brain that you are behaving like this? Because she seemed to pretty clearly like him a lot as well. Like, I don't want to say that I can tell these things because I'm sure I can't. But a lot of the time, the attractions between these people tends to seem of fairly surface level.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel, I don't know, it felt a little bit more genuine with her. And I don't know why that was necessarily, if that was just sort of the vibe she gave off as a person or what exactly. So it was even more disappointing when, again, like he didn't give her anything. No one-on-ones, like the barest minimum of time without sending her home until basically the very end when he was just like, yeah, sorry, but like, you know, my relationship just progressed. Like I was just so comfortable. Like he just friend-zoned her so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel bad because I don't think that she deserves that, particularly in a show where the whole point is you're supposed to be developing this romantic relationship. And the fact that he just completely ignored her, that made me a little angry, not gonna lie. Particularly, and you guys may have more comments on this as well, but particularly as, I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of just courage it would take her as a member of the deaf community to like come on national TV and be competing, right? Because the people they get on this show are among the top layer of like attractive people generally, or they do their best to do that. And as somebody who had to have cochlear implants to be able to hear at all, and as it been able to learn how to speak, right, because it was genetic, is she had to actually learn how to speak. Even through that, like to come on to, and you know, say what you will about the show and whether you dislike it or like it or whatnot, like that's a pretty big deal from a personal character standpoint. And so for her to just be like tossed aside like that is kind of irritating.
Yep. She was actually vulnerable. That was the thing. She actually had a reason for being vulnerable, and it was like with the whole thing about her kids are probably going to be deaf. That was a big vulnerable moment, whereas like you were saying, like half the contestants, I'm being vulnerable with you. It's like, about what? Like you haven't said anything. I'm so hard to be vulnerable with you, and it's like, okay. Like she actually had a reason. It was like Chelsea too had a reason.
Yeah.
Like I always appreciate those.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like there may be a handful more, but like off the top of my head, I just only remember 3, right? So Abigail talking about just her deafness and how difficult that is, and like that her children may be deaf. Chelsea with just her whole experience with her hair through her life. Sarah talking about her experiences with her dad with ALS. I'm sure there are a few more than that, but like that sort of stuff doesn't really happen super frequently on the show, I don't think.
Yeah, that sort of thing gets edited out in favor of like Victoria, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it just sucks when somebody's there for the right reasons and they just get completely ignored.
And Victoria had her very vulnerable moment of asking why squirrels are associated with fall.
Yeah, that was a blooper moment. Literally, why are squirrels associated with fall? Yeah. It's because of their stored acorns, Victoria. It's because of that. Anyway, I won't get into a long tirade about acorns and storing them for the winter or anything like I have before on goats and egg catching. But unless you guys have any more hot takes about Abigail's hot date, we probably should move on to poor Piper.
Piper. Oh, I have a thing. Wait, you guys can go and talk about Piper's overall, and then I have a take.
Oh, literally the only thing I was going to say was that I always just called her Piper so that I remember how to spell her name.
Wow, what a hot take. I was gonna say that I thought it was interesting that Chris Harrison said she was like, nobody expected you to go home, and like I watched that episode and I